Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Joy of SharePoint and Pait Group Binge-worthy short series, episode 1. We have here today Joy of SharePoint, Joy, and we have Richard Calderon, and they will be giving us. Good morning, everyone. An introduction. Welcome to the Joy of SharePoint. An introduction on Microsoft Teams and welcoming us to Teams. So Joy and Richard, I'm going to have you take it away.
Well, thank you, Stacy. We appreciate you. So welcome, everyone. So this is a little different. This is our very first time using a Teams live event for a webinar, and we're super excited about it. But just like every time you use something new, right? We'll see how it goes, but please do like we always do on our webinars. Join that chat. If you have questions, please ask. And we're just going to take some time, not a lot of time, because we know everyone is a little stressed and a little pulled in different directions right now. We've got kids and spouses and distractions that we don't usually have during the day, as well as just, you know, a little bit of extra hecticness with having to transition to working from home. It's kind of cheating for Richard and myself. We've been remote workers for a little while, right? Sure. It's kind of not fair, but yeah. I mean, I would say I've been grounded for a few weeks now. I've not been able to go on any trips and meet clients face to face, and I'm an extrovert. It's taking its toll. How are you hanging in there, Richard?
Doing okay. You know, just like you said, got the kids here at home. It's definitely a little challenging on the being able to focus on work, but you know, we're managing and we're getting it done. So we hope that you guys are all hanging in there as well. And we really appreciate you spending some time with us here today. So Joy, do you want to tell them briefly a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Some of you may know me, some of you may not. I am Joy Apple, aka Joy of SharePoint, pun absolutely intended. I am a modern workplace strategist at Pait Group. I do training. I have my webinar series that we do about once a month. I'm changing it up a little bit this month because we want to help you all kind of get introed into Teams and make the most out of it while we can. But I've been working with Microsoft products and technology for a little over 11 years, actually going on 12 years. I've started as a farm admin, went into consulting and then training, and here I am living the dream. How about you, Richard?
Yeah, so I am also a modern workplace strategist and consultant here at Pait. Fortunate to get a chance to work along with Joy, Stacy, and some of the other talented consultants here at our organization. My focus for going on around the past 20 years now has been in Microsoft consulting, started off really strong in the SharePoint space, and then got into Office 365 when that whole cloud kind of business became a thing. My emphasis has really been primarily around the overarching strategy for an Office 365 or Microsoft 365 implementation, driving adoption, managing change, delivering what are called customer immersion experience sessions to help people understand kind of what's possible in the cloud. And I was also formerly at Microsoft as a modern workplace specialist for a few years, but back in the consulting business now and loving it.
Goes round and round. And I did see a post that perhaps some folks are having some trouble seeing and hearing.
Can someone give maybe a shout out in the Q&A to let us know if you can hear, or if you're also having trouble hearing or seeing, just to let us know? That would be great.
Oh, yeah,
and then
right. We're in the new.
Yeah, exactly. While that's going to, Stacy, if you want to drop in the poll question number 1 into the Q&A, we can go ahead and just kind of get started. If you want to, feel free to just drop all the poll questions in, because I think we're just going to go straight through them. And let's see, is there anyone able to hear us? Because if not, I guess they wouldn't have heard me ask.
And I'm getting some thumbs up. So I'm taking those as yeses, and we're getting some.
Okay.
This is fun. It's fine here. Okay.
Good news. Good news.
We were
okay. Well, Yeah, why don't we just, in the interest of time, we'll kind of move along. So we put together a few simple poll questions. We thought that it would be useful just to get an idea as to who's who in the zoo kind of in today's webinar. So a couple ways you can engage with the poll questions. Number one is in the Q&A, Stacy has dropped the links to the Microsoft Forms. If you happen to just have your mobile phone out and accessible, you could also very easily just hold it up to the screen and use your camera to scan this QR code to get to poll question number one. But we just kind of wanted to get a general sense today as to who's in the audience. And while we're doing that, I'll go ahead and flip over to the results and see. So hopefully we'll get some results here pretty quickly in terms of who's actually in the room. And it looks like we've got a couple of responses that are kind of coming in so far. We've got a number of folks that are IT pros. Thank you for that. And we'll just kind of let that roll here for another few seconds, maybe about 10 more seconds, just to know who's who. A couple of folks from the business as well. That's great. Thanks for joining us today. Some management folks as well. And again, a number of folks from that are the IT teams. So fantastic. And Stacy, if you want to go ahead and roll in the next couple of poll questions, we'll go ahead and push through. Feel free again to use the links in the Q&A to answer any of the poll questions along the way. Even if we're skipping ahead to the next ones at this point. But poll question number 2 is really just, again, to give us a sense as to your experience level as we talk through not only today's webinar, but the next set of episodes in the series where we're talking more in depth about Microsoft Teams. We just kind of want to understand, have you ever used it before? Use it frequently? Are you lesser experienced? Maybe you've only seen other people use it, or maybe you have no experience with it whatsoever. Totally fine with that as well. Feel free to scan the QR code, or if Stacy's got the poll question in the Q&A. Do we have the poll question published out there in the Q&A at the moment, Stacy?
Yeah, I see it coming through.
Okay, fantastic. I see that 2 and 3 as well too. Okay, and then so let's flip over and see kind of what's going on in this question at the moment right now. We've got quite a few people that say they use it frequently, which is great. A few of you that haven't really seen it, thank you for answering that. That's helpful, actually, quite a bit. So again, we'll let this roll here for a few more seconds. It looks like a good mix, balance between the two, of those that have used it quite a bit and those have used it only a little, with a few people who've only used it some. So again, thanks for that. That certainly helps us understand. We can tailor more of the discussion towards that. And then lastly, all working from home these days. And so just something that I thought would be kind of fun, actually, just to kind of get some ideas from you all. So in terms of joining today's webinar, are you joining it sitting there in your PJs, maybe from your bed? Is it lunchtime, or are you having a snack, or any and all of the above? So just curious to know.
There's not an answer there that matches me, because I've still got my fuzzy slippers on, because the webcam's really only from like the waist up.
Yes, exactly. Okay, and if I can just get to the right one here. That's the job audience. That's the job roles one. There you go today. So folks that are joining today, good. Having lunch. That's a good thing. Yeah, awesome. Outstanding. And one person who's willing to admit that is actually watching this webinar from bed. That's good.
You're a hero.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay, so we appreciate that. Again, feel free to answer in the polls at any time along the way. You can just hit the links. But thanks for that. We appreciate that information. Okay, so kind of getting on into the meat of the webinar at this point now. I'm going to hand it over to Joy. Joy, do you want to take it away?
Yes, happily. So what the heck is Teams anyway? So for those of you that might not be super familiar or that aren't familiar at all, Teams is a chat-based communication platform. If you ever used Skype for Business in the past, Teams was actually built on top of Skype for Business. So you'll definitely see some similar features, but the layout, the button clicks will look a little bit different. That's okay. I've heard someone yesterday refer to it as Skype 2.0. I would actually maybe say Skype 3 or 4.0, because there's just been so many features that have been added to it. The biggest one being that it's a collaboration hub for important and relative files. That sounds like so many buzzwords, right? But it is one place where not only can we chat and have real-time communication, but we can share important files while we do it. And if you're like me, when I first saw that, and I tend to go jump into something and click the buttons before I read or study it because I like pushing buttons. I got really upset in a very short amount of time because I was like, oh, great. We try to get people to use a single version of the truth in SharePoint. Now we're giving them files in Teams to go put stuff, and we're going to have content everywhere. Until I got to looking at it and I see that when I put something in Teams, it's really going into a SharePoint library. So we are still working off of a single version of the truth. And we can have our meetings, calls, and they can be video calls, audio calls with multiple people or just one-on-one, and so much more. The much more will come in. Oh, Richard, you're good. He knows exactly when to transition those slides. You'd think he's been doing this before, huh? So it comes in on that left rail. So that left rail is going to be those buttons that sit along the far left hand of Teams. It starts with activity and then goes on down chat, Teams, calendar, files, and calls. So activity is awesome. And really what we're going to do today is kind of give you a demo, a little bit of each of these to kind of get you off and running. And in the next webisodes, we're going to do a deep dive into the specific buttons. Today's the tour. So activity is really where I start my day. And I'm going to do something very bold and brave. I'm going to go live. So I'm going to share my screen. So something is being shared and I'm going to cut them off and I'm going to take over and I'm going to share. Because that's how I roll. I'm going to share my desktop. And of course, I'm sharing something I don't want to share yet. We'll get back to this later. I'm actually going to share Teams from Teams, right? A little inception action going on there. So I'm going to go to my activity feed and I'm going to be brave, right? This is how we work inside of Pait Group, right? But on my activity feed, I have this filter button. And if I click that ellipsis, I can filter on unread, at mentions, replies, reactions, all these things. So I can start my day in activity much like I might have once started from my Outlook inbox. Here I can see what's been going on. I see that Richard replied to me inside of my demo project team. I can come straight to that. Richard, I'm going to scoot you down out of the way and just jump in and reply. I can see what all's been going on in my organization that I'm a part of and that I'm interested in right from here. Chat. It's where I chat. This is my group chat demo. So I actually have multiple people in here all on the team. As you can see again at Pait Group, we have fun with the Giphies and the emoji. Group chat or one-on-one chat, either way. It's a place to have real-time communication. So back in the olden days, I would send out an email, hope people saw it, hope they were reading it. I wonder if they're ever going to reply. We cheat a little bit in Teams. So Richard and I were talking earlier. Richard, I'm going to use our chat as an example.
Okay.
So I can see right here, he read this. Right, so we can have these conversations. I can see that he read it with read receipt, and we can just have that live communication. Group chat doesn't really give me the read receipts yet. I don't know for a fact that's on the upcoming features list, but it wouldn't be surprising to me if we got those capabilities in the future. I can absolutely share files in chat. I got a spreadsheet here, a couple of Word documents. If I'm in chat and I'm sharing files, OneDrive is managing those files for me. So one thing that's important to know, and this might kind of make your brain feel a little itchy while we're first getting used to the concept, but Teams is not in the file management business. It relies on OneDrive to manage any files that are shared in chat. And then when we look at Teams, we'll see that SharePoint is managing those files. That way we're working on a single version of the truth. Now, if I'm in this group chat and sometimes words just aren't enough, you just can't type it all out, notice I've got the ability right here to start a video call. Webcam's on, people, so we might want to at least have a real shirt on instead of our pajamas, right? But that's neither here nor there. I could also start an audio only call. If I click this button, it's going to start dialing everyone that's in this group chat. If this were one-on-one, it would just call that one person. But right now we recognize that there's a good chance you got some kids running around the house. Maybe you have a spouse that's home and they keep coming in your office every few minutes to say, what are you doing? What are you doing now? What's going on? And it's just a little bit different than usual. You could choose to just share your screen. No audio, no video. And you say, hey, guys and gals, do you see when I'm on this screen, I click this button, I'm getting this error, right? And we can chat about it without having to worry about background noise. And then I've got this little people button over here, and I can see all of the folks that are in this chat with me. I could add other folks. Maybe I want to add Mark. It's always good to get Mark Rackley's opinion on things. So I could add Mark in, and I have the option, do I want to include history? If I do, how much history? The default is 1 day. Notice if I back that out, it tells me I need to type a number between 1 and 999. So I can choose how much history I share with Mark here. Because, you know, if we were talking about him last week, we don't want him to see that, right? Or I could include all of the chat history. He can see everything we've been talking about. He comes in and they see this notification. Oh, I even see that Richard is typing, right? It's great, very interactive. So chat is the place for us to come in and have these conversations that are outside of our actual department or project or working group. I'm going to come acknowledge Richard's comment with a good old thumbs up. So next down on the left rail, I have my teams. Teamwork makes the dream work. Everything we do at Pait Group is going to be client focused, client specific. So typically it's going to be in the confines of a project. You'll notice when you have a team or you create a new team, you're going to get this thing called general. That's a channel. Channels exist inside of Teams to organize our conversations and our content. So at Pait Group, I would say for about 80% of our customers, we do something called deployment planning. And that's where we come in and we help you figure out how to get from where you are today on a file share or an old version of SharePoint into the new modern Office 365 and SharePoint world. So we're going to create a deployment planning channel. This is where we talk about deployment planning. Richard, would you say that when it comes to inside the Teams world, do you feel like sometimes it's just hard to wrap our brains around what the heck channels and tabs and all that stuff are really for?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can be. It can be. But, you know, the good news is that there is no really right or wrong as far as that goes. The way that channels are set up within your team, the way that you might create tabs to be able to bring the content in a single click to people that are on that team in that channel. It's really up to you. So, you know, the good news, it's very flexible as far as that goes.
Absolutely. And a good rule of thumb is if you have a topic of work, a scope of work, or a process, that's probably going to be defined as a channel. So I know if I want to talk with my group, my team about implementation, that's where I would go to have the conversation, keeps it organized. Any of the files that I want to share about the implementation, maybe a migration spreadsheet, right? I can upload that in here and I know where to go to get it in the future. It's a migration asset, so it goes in the migration channel. But Richard mentioned the tabs. I can add tabs across the top to make it easy to get to resources that I and my team use a lot. So maybe I have a PowerPoint presentation. It's a diagram of the proposed architecture we're going to build out and migrate into. So it might make sense for me to make that diagram a tab at the top. So now it's a resource I can access really easily when I'm already here. I don't have to go find where somebody shared it with me in email. I don't have to dig through my shared folder or anything. It's just here to use. And I'm going to do a little scroll down. Notice there's a lot of apps here that you could turn into a tab, a resource that you and your team members can use. These are not all Microsoft products. If there's a login required, when the individual clicks it, they would be prompted to log in. Your environment may not show all of these. Since we do demos and consulting, we don't turn anything off. It's wide open. Most organizations will limit what's available here to make sure you're using the tools that have been vetted by your IT department. So I'm going to close this down. So to get the content into files, you can literally click on your ribbon. Does this look familiar? Because this is actually a view, kind of a slightly modified view of your SharePoint library ribbon. So if I wanted to start from scratch, I could create a new Office document. I could upload from the stuff I've already got out here, or I can drag and drop in. I can even get the email address. Every channel gets an email address, and I can forward emails to the appropriate channel. Any attachments will be uploaded into the appropriate Files tab. Next on down is Calendar. Oh, well, before I do that, I do want to mention, I want to mention mentions. So if you want to make sure you get somebody's attention, the @mention is your friend. I can @mention Richard and say, thanks for all your hard work. Send that out. Or I could mention the team. Everyone on the team would then get a notification. In fact, Teams knows what team you're in. So you can just type @team. Team. When I upload content into Teams, I will typically drag it and drop it right here and then @mention my team so everyone knows it's there. So I don't have to go back and tell them. They get the notification. For Calendar, I'm going to actually pivot over to my demo environment, just because I do have some sensitive information on my work calendar. But this is actually Outlook. Teams is the service application platform. So the things it gives us access to are SharePoint files, chat, and this is my Outlook calendar. I can schedule a new Teams meeting directly from the calendar here, and it will sync almost instantaneously over to my Outlook calendar, because that's really what I'm modifying here. Notice I even have my scheduling assistant available. I can add required attendees or even optional. And Richard, I'm curious, I find that since we're in Teams so much working, I do all of my calendaring and meeting schedules from Teams. Where do you typically fall?
Yeah, I do the same. I know that some folks are just more comfortable with or just used to using Outlook for scheduling meetings. And depending on if you have it all set up so that you can, in fact, schedule Teams meetings, there's some kind of IT levers and switches that kind of have to get pulled in the back in order for that to work. But if you do have that set up, then you also can create meetings from Outlook, just in the way that you're familiar with creating meetings today from Outlook. But yeah, to answer your question, I certainly do the same. I just use Teams more frequently for setting up meetings.
Yep, and I think it's typically because we as an organization started using Teams 3 years ago. And it's just like, that's where we live now, because we can get to everything we need from it, and we don't have to play hopscotch and go to all these different apps. So we're just there. But just to show you, there's nothing up my sleeve, right? I've got my Joy of SharePoint demo Outlook calendar pulled up. And here are those exact events. And if I did need to create something new, come in here, I could add the event. And right down here, there's the little toggle to say, yes, I need to add the Teams meeting link in there so people can join this as Teams. If you are on your Outlook desktop app, it's a little button. It's in the message ribbon, I think. Is that right? No, the meeting ribbon. Yeah. See, I don't do it much anymore.
One of those.
It's somewhere.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the mobile app, oh my gosh, get the Teams mobile app because you can do all of this right from the app. It's amazing.
Yeah, we're going to showcase a lot more of those types of things too in future episodes. I think we might even just take a whole episode to talk about the mobile experience because there's so much cool stuff that you can really do from the mobile app.
It's like magic. It's like magic. And then, let me stay on my demo because I want to go and talk about files real quick. Well, we'll do calls. Calls, this is like one-stop shopping. So actually for that, pardon me while I click around like a crazy person. If I go to calls, that just gives me quick access to find my contacts and hit that call button, and it will start an audio call. You have the option to switch to video if you want to, or you can start off with your little camera. Your contacts will come over just how you had them organized in Skype, and then you can see your call history, and if you have voicemail set up, you can get to that here. So that said, I'm going to pivot back to my demo and do files. Files will show you the recent tab, super cool. If you hopscotch between Outlook and OneDrive and SharePoint and Teams, this recent area will show you any recent documents you've been working on. It doesn't matter where you opened it up from. Excuse me. In my real Teams, there's actually a slide sitting there that Mark sent me yesterday in Outlook. I haven't uploaded it anywhere. I've just opened that message. But Office 365 knows that I opened up an Office document, so it's making it available here. Teams, this is just the stuff I've been accessing in Teams recently. Notice this location, Teams/AC Demo, Teams/La Jolla Manufacturing. These are SharePoint sites. It was uploaded into Teams, but SharePoint does the document management for me. So it's an onion. There's a lot to talk about, but our goal for today was to get your feet wet, give you kind of an introduction of, which button on your left rail to use in a specific situation. I'm hoping, I can't see my question and answers. Do we have any questions out there, Richard? Do you think we need to jump on?
Yeah, really quickly with the time we have left, if you go back to your calendar and you go to schedule a new meeting, wanted to show that you did have a scheduling assistant, the ability to look at other people's free busy, or if they're sharing details, those will show here as well. So again, just similar to what you could do through Outlook, you do have that ability here in Teams to be able to see other people's availability as well too. There's a question from Joe Shaw. I'm not sure I entirely understand the question, Joe. Maybe you can clarify a little bit about how do I get a calendar option in Teams? That should the calendar app, if you will, on the left-hand rail, should be there by default. If it doesn't, there might be some configuration consideration that needs to get looked at in this case here. And then,
oh, sorry. I was going to say you might reach out and make sure that you are working with Exchange Online.
Yes, exactly. There are some experience differences between whether you have your mailbox in Exchange Online in Office 365 or if your mailbox is still potentially on premises Exchange. There are some differences there between the integration with Teams. So, and I know we had another couple of questions. I think what we'll need to do at this time is just try to answer them offline if at all possible. Again, we're going to have the recording for the webinar so that you can reference the recording as well afterwards. And then, Joy, if you want to pull up the last slide that has some of our contact information, that'll also be, again, available in the recording. We'll also make sure to send this out to you all. But you can get in touch with us either via email or both of us are on Twitter. And also, please do register for, we'd love to see you again in some of our upcoming episodes that we've got. The next one's going to be a week from today. We're going to start trying to do a regular Tuesday, Thursday cadence with them, but we're actually skipping this Thursday in favor of some other webinar content that's being presented both by the North American Collaboration Summit as well as Pait Group. Anything else, Stacy, from your end before we tie it all up?
Nothing. I just wanted to let everybody know if they are not already registered for NACS, they still can register for the live event that has been rescheduled for September. And I will be happy to distribute that information out post-event to everybody who is here today. And by registering for that event, you have access to the live event that's happening on.
And I'll volunteer us for some Twitter work. So those questions that we've not been able to get to, we'll take those out to Twitter. So we've got our Twitter handles here. We'll go online and we will shoot those out to you this afternoon.
Outstanding.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you spending your afternoon with us.
Yes, we will see you next time when we deep dive. I think meetings. Is that right?
Yep.
You got it.
Meetings.
Can't wait.
Bye.
Thanks,
All right, stay
everyone.
safe. Bye-bye.